sometimes I feel guilt for my privilege. This is something that was very close to heart for me that I struggled with growing up, and also something that recently I've been hearing some of my clients voicing in our one-to-one coaching. Especially as we awaken and step into an elevated version of ourselves, our next level of identities and dreams and lifestyle and who we could really be, one common phenomena that pops up is privilege guilt. I can't believe that I get to be here right now. I can't believe I'm not suffering anymore, and yay, but at the same time, now I feel guilt because I know that others out there are not as fortunate. I feel guilty for getting to be where I am now. All of these are forms of privilege guilt. I made this video today to really talk to you about how privilege guilt is holding you back. It's weakening your heart and intuition and also keeping you from sharing more good with the world around you. In this video, let's talk about the mental shifts that you need to make so that you can move to the next level of you, one who isn't held back by unnecessary guilt. And I think especially if you're an empathetic, heart-based, or even spiritual person, guilt and privilege guilt is something that can often come up. Privilege guilt held me back viscerally for so many years as I was going through high school and college, navigating the social dynamics in those environments. I often had this pervasive sense of guilt around privilege. Privilege guilt shames us into resisting our callings and not stepping in and being the truly authentic version of ourselves. Thank you for tuning into this video, and by the end, hopefully you'll be able to absolve at least some of the privilege guilt that you've been carrying around with you. After all, my channel is dedicated to your self-actualization and liberation and sense of freedom and joy, and thus I want to help you overcome whatever is limiting you. So let's delve a little deeper into what privilege guilt is exactly. It's basically feeling guilty about your circumstances, especially if it's more privileged, which unfortunately in this modern global world can even mean very basic fundamental things like rights to daily safety, consistent access to food, water, shelter, education, protection from violence and harm, and healthiness of the body or mental health. All of those things, basically any form of privilege that you feel in who you are or the circumstances that you are materially born into, can manifest as privilege guilt. And I think a lot of people on the younger side will experience this because as you're growing up into adulthood, and let's say you're pre-25, you haven't created a lot of the fundamental structures of your life yet. You are kind of born into a lot of things like your family, your neighborhood, your environment, even your education systems. So I think it's more natural to feel that kind of privilege guilt when you're younger. In my own experience, as I've built more and accumulated more from myself in ways that were aligned with my values, that also naturally led me to feel less guilt and more empowerment. But still, sometimes I had felt that underlying guilt of, well, I only got here, or I was only able to even do or consider these things because of some levels of inherent privilege. I'd love to hear your thoughts or experience on this too, so feel free to comment or share any thoughts with me over email or DM. But the thing is, a lot of things created in our minds that fundamentally come from a good place can still manifest in destructive ways in our practical lives. So for example, you might have a desire to protect yourself and be safe. That can manifest mentally as resisting change and resisting growth and staying in your comfort zone. So along the same veins, even though privilege guilt might come from a truly empathetic and kind place, ultimately how it manifests in your life is limiting you. Let me explain why privilege guilt harms you and why I'm going to help you think about each thing differently so that by the end of this video, you'll have a new perspective on privilege. Here are the 3 reasons why holding on to privilege guilt harms you and how we can transcend each of these. So first of all, this kind of guilt keeps you inactive and stagnant, or in an even worse case, keeps you in a state of guilt and shame, which is very low vibrational energy and not a pleasant experience to live in. Instead of being the change that I really wanted to see in the world and having the courage to meet my mission straight up, I instead hid away and was kind of stuck in privilege guilt. When we are asked to or want to become more, there will be discomfort along the way. Remember this and recognize this. Privilege guilt is another form of discomfort that can pop up. But if you listen to that voice in your head and you let privilege guilt hold you back, you're essentially procrastinating on the work and growth that you really need to be doing. The second important thing about privilege guilt and why we need to shift out of it is that it actually leaves you vulnerable and weak to the structures, changes, and power dynamics in the world. When we are sheltered and don't break out of it, it becomes hard for us to really grow and become stronger. I also talk about entropy a lot on this channel. The world is always changing around you, oftentimes much more rapidly than you would think. Evolution is a natural force and it is harsh. Evolution is not empathetic, and it doesn't have the same considerations that you do. Power dynamics, given such speed and adaptation, can shift within decades or even years. What happens if everyone around you, especially those who are not as considerate or kind or sensitive or self-aware as you are constantly moving forward while you're in a state of inaction and guilt? From the principle of entropy, we must always grow and expand to offset deceleration and death and decline. Do not let privilege guilt make you weak. Remember that strength, inner strength, and the strength of your character is important. And if you want more inspiration or advice on different ways that you can strengthen yourself, you can peruse around my channel. I have tons of videos around these general topics. The last most important reason, and the one that I am most passionate about nowadays, is that privilege guilt is a waste of resources. It's a waste of who you could be, and we want to be resourceful, not wasteful. The world needs more kind-hearted and empathetic people, privileged or not born into privilege, to stand up and co-create the world. This is real talk right now, and a lot of people are doing this. They are being the change that they want to see, no matter what kind of resources or conditions they were given. I've seen this in so many success stories. I've seen this in real-life examples of people around me in my network. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but I think another key reason that we feel guilt or shame around privilege, there's a lot of negativity around privilege sometimes on the internet or in people's perceptions in real life. But you know what? There's always going to be haters. There's always going to be people with things that they need to work on that are projecting onto you. The other piece of this too is that there are and have been a lot of people that have abused their privilege and power. And a lot of our history and more repressive institutions of the past were built on privilege that was passed down. And so understandably, there is negative stigma around privilege because so many people have abused their power and privilege since the beginning of time. All of that is just to say that I think it's so wasteful. If you have a good heart and something that you want to do in this world, no matter how big or small, and you're not stepping into who you are called to be just because, and especially if you're coming from a place of privilege. And I'm saying this with all the love, especially even to my younger self. Do not let the false things keep you down. Do not let the fear keep you down. Be who you are meant to be. You need to step into your true power. Continue being grateful for it, remove the shame and guilt, and double down on your mission. I'm in the era now of reclaiming who I am and also giving back just as much. The world needs more of that now and always because systems of ego-based or corruption-based power are constantly accumulating and growing too. This has been a truth since the beginning of time. If you found this video helpful, you might like another video on my channel called Don't Let Your Intelligence Sabotage You. It's also another application of how something inherently good that we were given can actually sabotage us and hold us back. So a reminder to use your mind and whatever resources you were given as a tool to expand and bring more of who you really are into this world. And remember, and I've also seen this to really be true in my own life with the people that I work with the people that I look up to, that money doesn't change who you fundamentally are. It just brings out more. It just amplifies more of who you truly are. If you're interested in working with me one-on-one, there's more info on those in the caption below. You can always comment or message me too if you have questions or additional insights and comments. I would love to hear them. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed and stay blessed.